Good morning, it's Michael Gray with rnhealthcoaching.com. The following excerpt is going to be a part of my 4x4x48 David Goggins challenge. Basically, it's 4 miles every 4 hours times 48 hours. I started this on 4 p.m. on Good Friday and I ended on Easter Sunday 2020. If you can't do 4 miles, then you do 40 minutes or more of some type of exertional activity, whatever it is that you feel that you can tolerate for that amount of time every 4 hours. It's actually quite challenging. One of my other biggest influencers is Fridman, who is an MIT physicist and has the podcast AI podcast, which is artificial intelligence, and he took this challenge from David Goggins, as well as in between each of the iterations he did a gratitude journal. So basically that's what I did, is on between each 4-hour interval I did some sort of a distinct gratitude and made a video on it. So I have the full video, which is quite lengthy, and then I also have these excerpt videos between each one, which is what the following is. And thank you, have a good day, and mend yourself, move, educate, nurse, decompress, and enjoy this lockdown. What a crazy time, this coronavirus. It is April 11th, Saturday night, around 10 o'clock on the Biloxi beach. And typically the beach would be jam-packed with cars and people and just action, activity. And right now there's seldom any cars on the road, and it's about 10:30 right now, and at 11 o'clock they have a curfew from 11 at night till 5 in the morning. So last night I was going to go on a midnight bike ride, and I told my wife that that's what I was going to do, and she said, you know, there's a curfew right there. And I'm like, so I was aware of the beach being closed and thus not being able to be on the beach, but the boardwalk is open and we can go on the boardwalk as long as we maintain social distancing of 6 feet and we're in groups of 10 or less, but they don't want anybody congregating on the beach, so that's kind of how they're limiting that. But I wasn't aware of the 11 o'clock curfew. So tonight what I decided to do was to go out there at 8 o'clock. So I called my friend Bobby and met him at his house at 8 o'clock, and we went on a little 2-hour bike ride, which was about 20 miles from basically from Biloxi to Gulfport on the beach. And we were the only people out there other than like one random homeless guy. So it was just beautiful. And the 10 miles to Gulfport, we had the wind on our backs, and then the 10 miles back to his house, we had probably 30+ mile-an-hour winds against us, coming at us. So it was a little bit more difficult, and I'm glad that we went. So this last couple of days has been strange for me. I decided just randomly yesterday to do this 4x4x48 challenge. And I had already been fasted for over 24 hours, and I didn't get much sleep the night before because of a huge storm that came through, and I was up most of the night, and which is unusual for me. So when I started yesterday at 4 o'clock after my shift, I was kind of already a little bit on the, hadn't slept in a while and hadn't eaten in a while, and so I was kind of starting it off already a little challenged, and I don't want to say compromised, but then not fully tuned up in order to go into something like that. And I was just going to attempt to grind through it, which I did. And so at 4 o'clock I ran 4 miles in my driveway, and at 8 o'clock I did the same, and at midnight I rode the Actually, I jogged on the treadmill in my home for about 80 minutes. And then at 4 o'clock in the morning, I did the trainer, my road bike trainer inside. And let's see, the next one was the walk with my wife on the beach. And now I pretty much just kind of knocked two birds with one stone with this, with Bobby. So this was number 6 and number 7 tonight. But probably about 2 o'clock this afternoon, after I went on the full mile walk with my wife on the beach, and we were talking about spiritual gratitude and spiritual considerations, I just kind of bonked. I ran out of energy, and I was just super hungry. And I had already done everything that I could think of doing as far as like trying to increase some salt and that type of deal. And at that point, I wasn't sure if it was lack of sleep, which I didn't think it was, or just lactic acid, which I didn't think it was. I presumed that it was just an issue with me needing to eat something. So I went as long as I could, and after 48 hours I went ahead and ate. We went to Arby's, and it was delicious. And by the time we drove home an hour and the food kind of settled a little bit and I took a half-hour nap, I felt back to normal, so I felt great. So that's basically what it was, and I don't have any regrets for being fasted as long as possible. But I was corrected that it was going to make this journey more challenging, which it was. So at one point I told her that I thought I was going to abort mission because my knee was tweaked and my ankle was tweaked, and I was lethargic and I was hungry, and I just wasn't quite sure if I could complete it. So after I took the nap and then I woke back up and I realized I felt back to normal, I said, baby, I know that I said that I'm probably going to abort mission, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to go to the beach with my bicycle and see if I can find somebody going to ride with me and go ride for a couple of hours. So I asked her if she wanted to come. She declined. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So as far as intellectual gratitude, and this was one of the things that I was thinking of, the guy that I went out there, Bobby, is probably my most, one of my most intelligent or intellectual friends, as well as financially successful. So it's kind of fitting that he and I were able to discuss some things on finances and on just good use of your time as far as intellectual endeavors and stuff like that. So we talked a little bit about this on our ride, and we'll just start with intellectual. Basically, my core belief on intellectual, and of course this is going to be exceptionally individual, subjective, but I believe that the two main types of intellectual endeavors that we should consider are the formal, which was basically like going to school, going to college, and then informal, which is things like going to the music and learning how to play, going to the museum and learning how to play music or instrument, and learning how to draw or art or these types of endeavors. So kind of like with physical, there's smelling gym air and smelling fresh air. With intellectual, there's formal intellectual endeavors and informal. And as you get older, the more important is probably going to be the informal. But you should have a heightened awareness of where you spend your time researching or escapism, whether or not it's television or YouTube or Hulu or Netflix or Redbox or these types of things. Like, you can find the things that are intellectually stimulating and that may lead you towards your goals, or you can veg out and decompress. But some people may have a tendency to do too much of that. So I recommend that. This is just my recommendation. This is what I do. And this is one of the reasons I love my job so much, is that I spend a lot of time, that might be a little better, driving around in my car and listening to Audible, books on audio. I also spend a lot of time listening to podcasts and on various topics, whether it be Cambridge courseware, MIT, Joe Rogan podcast, Lex Fridman, physics, artificial intelligence, David Bett on valuetainment, Eric Weinstein, maybe it's Weinstein, Tim Pool. There are just a host of people that I watch, and to try and be intellectually stimulated, and that is also going to kind of help me carve the path of my goals and where it is that I want to spend my time. I used to spend a lot of time when I was younger watching South Park and Family Guy and cartoons when I was younger, this type of thing. And I think that it's just it's wonderful that we have all of this information available and all of these resources available. If you don't know something, you should GTS, Google that shit, and then also YouTube it and try and find out more information. If you, like, for instance, for me, I wanted to learn how to play the ukulele, so I researched ukuleles and then purchased one, and then researched how to play the ukulele, and spent a little time in my car on the beach just messing around with that. So that's kind of that informal education. So that for me is decompressing and meeting these unique life goals that are kind of off the beaten path. So, and then financial. We can talk a little bit about, I'm not a financial expert, I'm not a financial wizard, but one of the reasons that I became a registered nurse was because I could tell early on in the casino industry, and I did that for about 10 years, that it was the Peter principle, where people kind of progress to their highest point of incompetence. And then also there was like Napoleon complex, where why would anybody want to go up the chain of management to where if you put on a suit you actually made considerably less money? So why is it that you would become management, other than the fact that you just wanted that power, that prestige of wearing a suit, and that for whatever reason, even though you were making less? Because pretty much as you went up the chain of management, you would go higher and higher and higher, and then out the door. So there was no guarantee that you were going to be able to stay in the casino business, that there was any value in increasing your longevity even with one company. Now, of course, that's not entirely true for everybody. Of course, they have to hire people with experience, and that people that are excellent in certain areas. But for the most part, my observation was that there wasn't a lot of value and longevity in the casino business. And it was kind of shark infested waters. And also what we can see right now with this coronavirus and everything being shut down, Vegas shut down, the casinos here in Biloxi shut down. There are a lot of places that shut down. And when I decided I wanted to get out of the casino business, I had to find an occupation that would give me at least a similar income, which the medical field was one option. And then also, I felt that in all probability in my lifetime, at that time I was about 28 or 30, that I didn't have a lot of faith in society. I didn't have a lot of faith in the financial institutions, or the fact that in my lifetime, if I were to live my full lifespan, that that I wouldn't see necessarily a recession or a depression or a world economy collapse. And I wanted to be in a situation where, if that were to happen, if worst case scenario were to happen, what would be the most likely scenario that I would be able to still provide for my family, still have a job in the 1920s and 30s when when everybody was broke back then. Who was working? And fast forward that, if it was the 2030s, or it turned out to be the 2020s, who's working? And who's working are the nurses, the people in the medical field, the doctors. I never had the desire to be a doctor, but with nursing, there's 1,000 different types of nursing that you can do, and it seemed like a worst case scenario, if nobody was making money, that even if I couldn't make my regular income, I could take a dramatic pay cut, but still be able to eat, still be able to maybe have a roof over my head for me and my family. And it turns out right now that not only are the opportunities there to work, I don't have to take a pay cut. I could actually go make 2 or 3 times what my normal salary would be for this crisis situation. I'm already working 6 to 7 days on a regular basis, so no need for me to do that. But it was an option that I discussed previously on another video. So it seems to me like financially that I made the right decision. And I think people that spend $50,000, $100,000 on humanities undergraduate degrees, or degrees in art, graduate degrees, unless you're getting this education for free or at a very reduced cost because of scholarships and grants and this type of thing, I would not recommend that you spend those years of your life and put yourself in debt for something that has a very low guarantee that you'll even be able to use it throughout your lifetime to pay off student loans. Now, I have student loans right now. I've got about $20,000. My wife probably has about $30,000, and I feel like I've been paying these student loans off for a long time, but I didn't make it a priority to pay them off. I could have paid them off, I just haven't. And right now, with all of this Bernie Sanders and pay off student loan talk that's been going on for the last year, I'm like, well, even if I came into a chunk of money right now, I don't know if I'd pay them off, because at some point maybe they'll be paid off for me, or at least a sum of it. Considering I've been paying them for 20 years, I'm not going to feel guilty about that. Then there are also other programs for, turn this light off right now since I'm passing the po-po. I guess we can listen to me in But there are programs right now that pay off nursing, certain careers in the medical field, certain careers in like nursing and that kind of thing. If you work in maybe like a rural area, like in the middle of nowhere, or small cities, or certain types of nursing where you work for them for a couple of years and they pay off X amount of dollars towards your student loans or entirely. I've never worked in a small enough city to qualify for that, but that's always an option as well. I've got a young friend of mine. He's just turned 21 and he's in the military. He's in the Air Force, I believe. And my recommendation to him is just, if he's going to stay in the military, to just throw whatever the maximum he can at that 401k or retirement, whatever it is that the military has. And even if not, whatever it is that he would do in the private sector, get him some Roth account or some type of a way to just take advantage of that compound interest, of that rule of sevens, of that just trying to maximize his ability to, you know, like if he were to do that at a young age, he could be a millionaire by the time he's probably my age. And a lot of this is having the influence of people that have been successful in that. You know, my parents weren't big savers. They were middle class, and we didn't get a lot of instruction on this is how you build wealth. And it would have been nice to have had that, but you know, it's probable that I wouldn't have done it anyway, because you know, some people just aren't smart in that way, and as an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old, I didn't have enough positive influences around that area, and he does. So hopefully he'll heed my advice and heed Bobby's advice. And one thing that I did for him is I went onto the Social Security website, and you can create an account there, and you can go and see how much it is that you've made, like basically what you did, what you submitted to the IRS on your yearly 1040 tax return or whatever it is. And so I was able to print out everything that I've made since like 1987, 88, whenever it is that I got my first job bagging groceries. And you know, so showed him how incrementally throughout my life that I've gotten progressively more and more income, better jobs from year to year to year. And it's usually like 3, 4, 5 years at this level, 3, 4, 5 years at this level, 3, 4, 5 years at this level. And what I did to put myself in a position to kind of like incrementally be able to get more and more income throughout my lifetime to where I'm at right now. And you know, so the fact that he's not making a lot of money right now as a lower ranked member of the military doesn't mean that when he's 30 and when he's 40 and I'm close to 48, you know, at some point he's going to be making income. But if he can put savings around now, that instead of being broke like me, he'll be well off and not having to worry, and in a position of what is that movie, The Gambler, maybe, when John Goodman says you need to put yourself in a position of don't give a fuck, you know, where no matter what happens to the economy, your house is paid for, your cars are paid for, you're not in any debt, and you've got a nest egg of assets, where even if we're in a position where we're in right now with a recession and a depression and a world economy collapsing, you're still going to be fine. Now, I'll probably be fine. Bobby will definitely be fine. So anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about on these two subjects right now, and have a good day. And it's right now, it's almost 11 o'clock, and by the time I get home it'll be midnight, and I'll probably be back on the indoor bicycle trainer. All right, thanks. Appreciate your watching.